everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today. So I'm Clara Tang. I am the Director of Research at the Kabuki Syndrome Foundation, KSF for short. I'm a neuroscientist by training. I did a PhD at the University of Cambridge in learning and memory, and then I moved into industry for a couple of years before joining the foundation at the beginning of last year. I'm based in Cambridge, and I came to the Family Day last year, so it's great to see some of you again. So today, I'm going to tell you more about KSF and what we do, and then our research roadmap to treatments called LEAP, and then I'll also share a brief overview of some of the projects that we're funding and leading as part of LEAP. So KSF, we are a non-profit organization that is dedicated to accelerate research to improve the lives of everyone with Kabuki syndrome. We're primarily based in the US, but we do have staff and board members that are based in the UK. And our board members, one of whom is here today, busy taking a picture, Jessica is here. And they're all volunteers, passionate volunteers who also have family members affected by Kabuki syndrome. The foundation is dedicated to driving patient-centered research through fundraising and collaboration with partners around the world. Our most important partner is every single one of you, because research cannot happen without patient participation. And we'll tell you a bit more, Jessica and Sally will tell you a bit more later today, how you can take action today, now. So we also collaborate with our medical and scientific advisors who are also around the world. We have Dr. Sibanka from the University of Manchester sitting on our board. We also have Dr. Hans Bjørnsen from the University of Iceland and Johns Hopkins. We have Dr. Alessio Zippo from University of Trento in Italy, David Genevieve from Montpellier in France, as well as several others in the US and Canada as well. They bring their diverse perspective to help us identify and prioritize the most important areas of research, and so that every dollar we raise can have the biggest impact. And that's how we develop our strategic roadmap, which we've called LEAP. So LEAP is generated from the greatest needs of the community, but also input from our medical advisory board, but also 20 plus years of drug development and discovery expertise from the biotech and pharma industry. So LEAP is an acronym that is formed by the initial letters of the 4 R's, so learn, enable, accelerate, and prepare. So in learn, we're learning more about the root cause of the symptoms of Kabuki syndrome, so understanding the disease mechanisms that is causing Kabuki syndrome, so that we can develop and discover treatments to target and treat the symptoms of Kabuki syndrome. In enable, we're funding and putting in place infrastructure to encourage and enforce collaboration, because collaboration is key to accelerating research in rare diseases. In accelerate, we're accelerating promising therapeutics for Kabuki syndrome so that we can improve the quality of lives of everyone affected. Based on our conversations with researchers, we know that there are at least 8 promising therapies that are in our pipeline, and we want to support studies that can help accelerate these treatments from the lab to the patients. And lastly, in prepare, we want to be prepared for clinical research. It's exciting that we have candidates that are in our pipeline, but we need the people and the tools to be ready so that when these candidates are ready for clinical research, we're also ready to test them. So here we've outlined our initiatives that are under each of these 4 arms and our progress in 2023. And I'll give you a brief overview of some of these programs today. And if you're interested to find out more, please check out our website, kabukisyndromefoundation.org/research, to learn more about each of these initiatives. So I'm going to start in enable. Our biggest investment in 2023, costing $1.3 million, was to establish this Kabuki syndrome outcome measures and biomarkers consortium, which we abbreviated to KSOC. It is a collaborative research project that is funded and created by KSF to develop tools that can help bring therapeutics to human clinical trials. So we have, as mentioned, multiple therapeutics that are in the pipeline, but there are currently no specific Kabuki syndrome tools that can measure the impact that these treatments have on the Kabuki syndrome. So we are leading an international team of experts, clinicians and researchers and industry experts to accelerate the development of these tools that are known as outcome measures and biomarkers. So to start, KSF will aim to develop 3 potential biomarkers for Kabuki syndrome over the next 2 years. And one of these is the DNA methylation signature that Sid mentioned at the beginning of the day, and we're aiming to correlate that with neuropsych behavior, tests, and function. So we launched KSF at November last year, and we reached our first recruitment goal already thanks to the donations and participation from our global community. A validated biomarker can improve the chances of success of a treatment moving from the lab to patients by 20%. So the study is open to international participation as long as you have a genetic diagnosis of Kabuki syndrome and that you speak or you are spoken to in English at a native speaker level. Sally and Harry will be traveling to Baltimore later this year to participate. And so we're very excited to have you guys also participate. And yeah, anyone who's interested, please also check out our website. And another initiative that we funded last year was to update the prevalence of Kabuki syndrome. So the prevalence is defined as the total number of cases of a disease in a specific population at a particular time. So it tells us how common a disease is in the population. We know 1 in 32,000 births is the most commonly quoted statistics. But actually that statistics was derived over 35 years ago before the genes of Kabuki syndrome was even discovered. And having an updated, accurate prevalence figure is key to attracting more resources to Kabuki syndrome, an increase in pharma and industry interest, which then eventually leads to more drug discovery activity. So we need a more updated and accurate prevalence for Kabuki syndrome, and we engaged an epidemiologist called Dr. Cynthia Wiley last year to help us do this work. But as she was doing this work, she encountered some roadblocks. So the first challenge was a small sample size. As a rare disease, our population is inherently small. If our prevalence is truly 1 in 32,000 births, we will need at least 32,000 babies to even identify one case of Kabuki syndrome. So we need to collect data from a large population. So it is important to make sure that everyone who has Kabuki syndrome is diagnosed as quickly and as accurately as possible. So we're working on improving diagnostics, which Sid has mentioned, but we're also looking into using your fingerprints. So Kabuki syndrome have a unique fingerprints that can be used for diagnosis. Also, the very characteristic and distinct facial features. And we're starting a collaboration with a group in Germany to develop and improve the facial recognition algorithms and software that can be used to diagnose Kabuki syndrome based on your facial features. And we'll be sharing more about this work in our webinar in Q2, so look out for that. Or if you're interested to participate in that study, please come talk to me. Another roadblock we have was fragmented data. So all your data is scattered across different healthcare facilities or for your different specialists, and which makes collecting the data very difficult. So we're working with monitoring programs across in the States, which collects data from all these different sources to understand how many babies are actually being diagnosed with Kabuki syndrome in the first year of life. And this was through a partnership with the National Birth Defect Prevention Network in the States. A third roadblock we encountered were issues actually extracting the data, because there is no standardized way of labeling Kabuki syndrome. So it is difficult to extract data because there is no standard way to even report Kabuki syndrome in our medical records. So our solution is to apply for our ICD code. So this is in the US, the ICD code is used for insurance, It's how people know that you have Kabuki syndrome. And at the moment, there is no code. It's lumped with other congenital disorders. And so we have approached and applied with the CDC to have a specific ICD-10 code for Kabuki syndrome. And that will be presented next week at the committee meeting. And we're fingers crossed that that will be successful. But we've shared a lot more about this work at a recent webinar, how many people have Kabuki syndrome, and that recording is available right now on YouTube. So go check it out if you're interested to learn more. So the last initiative, not the last. So during the webinar, we also shared some data from our global census, Kabuki count. So until recently, there is no contact registry for Kabuki syndrome, which is why we led an effort with 10 and more Kabuki syndrome efficacy group to launch Kabuki Count in October last year. And thank you, Sally, for the early support and input to Kabuki Count, as well as the AFA Spanish group who helped with the Spanish translation, as well as the support from the Netherlands group. And we now nearly have nearly 1,000 people registered, and we want every single one of you to also register. And Jess will also share more data from our for Kabuki Count later this afternoon. So the last initiative I'll share is our collaborative discovery grant. We've heard from Sid that we need to learn more about the root cause, so the disease mechanisms behind Kabuki syndrome. And so we launched a grant last year to learn more about this. So we awarded the first discovery grant to a team of researchers, Dr. Hans Bjørnsen, Dr. Carl Broman, and Dr. Agnes Ulfik, based in Iceland and Wisconsin. And this grant was worth $150,000 over 2 years. To apply for the grant, the researchers have to form a team of at least 2 researchers from 2 different institutions. This is to enforce collaboration, because we really think that collaboration speeds up rare disease research. And they will be looking to map genetic modifiers that could then become targets for therapeutic development. And Dr. Bjørnsen will share more about this research at the next presentation. But before I pass over to Dr. Bjørnsen, I also want to share with you some of our plans for 2024. So in addition to continuing with KSF, improving diagnostics, we'll have 2 grant programs. The 2024 Discovery Grant will aim to also identify or develop new biomarkers or outcome measures, as well as potentially identify new targets that could be drugged for therapeutic development. The requirement for collaboration remains, and this year we are specifically also encouraging partnerships between industry and academics to promote translational research that could hopefully maximize impactful outcomes. We have added a therapy development fund that will help hopefully accelerate therapies that are currently in our pipeline. Drug development is expensive. Sid mentioned many pound signs, and each step towards a therapy demands a lot of studies to ensure that the drug you're taking will be safe and efficacious. And this typically costs at least $1 million per therapy before it even reaches clinical trials. So in our current budget, we've set aside about $500,000 to $600,000 to this fund that will be dispersed as 2 or more grants to hopefully accelerate 2 or more therapies. But with 8 promising therapies in our pipeline, we need more funding. And the more funds we can raise now, the more and the earlier we can know how quickly whether these are actually viable options for patients. So your support is really crucial in helping us drive these therapies forward. Biotech and pharma, I have worked in that industry. They do stall and unfortunately cancel some programs. So for a variety of reasons, and your funding can ensure that these programs continue to progress. So just to lastly hit it home, I do want to emphasize that every initiative that I've talked about today have been funded through donations through KSF. In the past year and a half, we have raised $2.4 million to advance treatments thanks to your generosity from the community. All of this has already being allocated or spent on the initiatives that we've talked about, and we need another, say, at least $1 million to fund our research this year and beyond. And every contribution matters, and there are various ways to give. We do have a tax relief option in the UK, and you can scan the QR code and it will take you to our donate page, and you need to click on the United Kingdom link to access that, but we can help you with anything of that. And some employers also match donations, doubling the impact of your contribution, so we can also help you navigate ask. So your support of your support of research really impacts the global community. Everything we do is for the global community, and progress in research is progress for everyone with Kabuki syndrome. So together we can really make a real difference. And thank you so much.